everybody, and welcome back to the Coach's Call for 2024. This is the first time that I'm reaching out to you in the new year. Thanks for being patient. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing so I can have you here long term and we can enjoy each other's company. Look, there's a lot to talk about. Football, some off-season baseball, Formula One, but there's a lot of hockey right now too. I mean, PWHL, a lot of hockey. But the last few days, what's been going on is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're on a 4-game skid, and not just a 4-game skid. They're on a 4-game skid where they've given up leads in every game, and the media, the fans, they're kind of getting worried. But Sheldon Keefe's not worried. Sheldon Keefe has said, "Hey, look, last week we won 4 in a row. We beat Anaheim. We beat San Jose twice." Uh, Anyways, Sheldon, maybe a different approach. You're not selling anybody with that. But here's the thing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I want to stop for a moment and cut to a clip on October 12th, 2023, when the season opened. I said this, and I want you to watch it. Small clip from the coach's call, what I said about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'll come back after that. So let's watch that. Here's where you're worried if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, or here's when you look at both teams and you say, okay, well, one's heading towards, predicted to head towards the Stanley Cup. If their defense is that bad, but the Montreal Canadiens aren't expected to go for the Stanley Cup this year, they're in rebuild. They have a younger core. They have way more upside than the Toronto Maple Leafs. So to me, the Toronto Maple Leafs, if this is a Stanley Cup run, they're in trouble. I know it's game one, and I know there's a lot of hockey. There is a lot of hockey, but I watched the preseason, and okay, there you have it. Game one. And I said back then, I know it's just game one. I know you guys are going to say to me, but it's just one game. I had watched enough and I had seen enough and I saw what was going on in the offseason that I said the Toronto Maple Leafs are in trouble. Now, 42 games in, thank you very much. The big network guys, the big network analysts, the guys who get sponsored by products and have commercials and have all the big stuff that I don't. Now they're saying, this is not a Stanley Cup team. They got bad goaltending. Their defense doesn't work. They're giving up leads. Thanks for catching up, guys. Thanks. Anyways, I'm not one to usually go, toot the horn here, but it's happened a couple of times where I'm just not going along with what, a network who sponsors the Toronto Maple Leafs has to say on game one that they get tired of trying to say by game 42, and then you have the product on the ice that you have. And the thing with the Toronto Maple Leafs is this. Look at they've gone, not if I move out of this year, they've gone through some Hall of Fame caliber coaches over the years, and they don't have a Stanley Cup to show for it. If you think about Pat Burns, Pat Quinn, Paul Maurice, Ron Wilson, I know, waffles, I get it. Some of you didn't like him. Randy Carlyle, Mike Babcock, and again, I know, yeah, he treated some players not the way everybody wanted him to treat players. I get it. And then of course you have Sheldon Keefe, and I don't know if he's Hall of Fame material, but he isn't a bad coach. He's just been sometimes in some bad situations, and he was a young coach, and I don't know that he knew how to handle himself, and still doesn't sometimes. Still doesn't show the maturity that I'd want my head coach to show. But my point is, they've gone through some high caliber coaches. They had Lou Lamoriello there, right? They've had some great hockey minds. Okay. I've left out Brian Burke, but the core of what might be happening right now might have started with Brian Burke. It might have started with the notion of gotta have truculence, gotta have, certain type of player on the Toronto Maple Leafs, uh, and as the general managers have changed, that that underlying tone has never left. We got to be tough. We're not tough enough. We got scoring, but we're not tough enough. And they go out and look for these tough guys. And you think about tree living, and again, here's what went wrong this year with the Toronto Maple Leafs, okay? Their off-season signings. Tyler Bertuzzi, 1 year, 5.5 million. Max Domi, 1 year, 3 million. That's $8.5 million tied up in two forwards when you really don't need, when you've got your core, all right, you core forwards, you don't need those two guys on this team because I really don't know what they bring. Bertuzzi has brought nothing. And if Bertuzzi was that good, he wouldn't have been a bit of a journeyman, right? The Boston Bruins would have played harder to try and keep Tyler Bertuzzi, but they didn't. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, they bit on Tyler Bertuzzi. Max Domi is a beautiful story. His dad, Ty, played in Toronto. He's gonna have the Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. Max Domi is a journeyman. He's been on a lot of hockey teams, and sometimes there's a reason. Look, he's a nice little hockey player, but he wasn't what the Toronto Maple Leafs needed, right? $8.5 million tied up there. Wait, John Klingberg, 1 year, $4.15 million. They're happy this guy got hurt. They didn't know what to do because he wasn't playing that great. So I don't mean they're happy that he got hurt, but they're happy that he's not around because they were worse, I think, when he was around. Okay. Guys, there's a lot of money tied up with this team. Wait, I forgot. I should mention Ryan Reeves, 3 years at 1.35 million, and he's playing in the minors. Why? He doesn't fit on this team. His style of play doesn't fit on this team. Yeah, he brings some toughness, but he's not there. And they have other opportunities. Look, they needed goaltending and they needed defense. And their new GM, Tree Living, who wanted to make a splash, and this is the danger you run into. You bring in your new GM, he wants to put his stamp on the team, and he goes out and signs some, household name players. They might have truculence. There might be some initial excitement. But after a few games, when that excitement wears off and you look at and you say, this is what I've got and this is what I've spent. And I know the counter argument is, well, there were no defense to go and get, and there were no goaltenders to go and get. Then don't go get them. The players you spent $15 million on didn't help your team. They're not going to help your team, not for what you want to do. So hold on to your money, wait for the season, see what develops, see what comes up. It's called patience. And there it is though, right? And I said, look at the Toronto Maple Leafs have chewed through a lot of coaches, all right? Patience. The fan base is no longer patient. The executives are no longer patient. And if they're not patient, you're going to make the types of moves when you bring in a new GM who wants to make a splash that the Toronto Maple Leafs did this summer. You make these moves that don't make sense for this organization. And now they find themselves where they are, 42 games in, not the Stanley Cup contender that everybody thought they were going to be, except me. I didn't think they were going to be, not with what they had, okay? But he's in a bind. Tree Living is picking up the phone, allegedly calling other GMs, trying to make deals, but he doesn't want to lose his core. He doesn't want to, give up the assets he needs to give up or can give up to improve that back end, right? To improve that back end. And there's all this sorts of rumors. Oh, Fleury maybe at the end of the season to help the goaltending situation. And you could drop Patrick Waugh in this team in the back end. There's got to be the defensive core is not good. Okay. And Patrick Waugh would steal your games. He would, but he's still the defensive core is not good, and they have to address the whole thing, and they have to address the whole culture. And some of that culture is the fan base. And if I have Leaf fans, I'm sorry. I feel for you. I don't want you to hate on me because I'm saying that, but you're impatient. I know because you haven't won in a long time. Martin Jones, Tree Living's being hailed as, oh, he's brilliant for signing Martin Jones for 1 year at 875. He's a good goal. He's a good little goalie. I don't think he's your answer. A lot of teams didn't want him, right? A lot of teams didn't want him. So Toronto Maple Leafs have become a bit of a wasteland, unfortunately. It's going in a bad direction. Sheldon Keefe, Tree Living re-signs the guy, coming in. Not what I would expect the new GM to do. Be patient, see what happens in the season. Now we got the fan base calling for Sheldon Keefe to be fired. And then we got Sheldon Keefe trying to convince us that everything's okay. And that permeates throughout the roster. It permeates to guys like Mitch Marner. Love Mitch Marner, great player. Permeates to Mitch Marner, right? No, we're a great team. We're awesome. Everybody's awesome. Everything's great. Everything's fine. It's not fine. Um, you have a culture problem when it comes to Toronto Maple Leafs. This coach isn't going to fix it. Another coach isn't going to fix it. And probably not even a star goaltender will fix it. It'll be interesting to see where the Toronto Maple Leafs go. At the beginning of the season, I said this team is going to be in trouble. 42 games in, everybody's agreed with me. This team is in trouble. That's the coach's call. Take care, everybody. Please subscribe if you can. Take care.